Hey everybody, my name is Dino from the Way Podcast, and I am here today to help loan officers empower them, equip them, and educate them on the way lending should be done. And I'm not going to do that by myself because I have a really great guest here today, Mike Hardy, and he is a seasoned vet in the mortgage business. But more than that, aside from being a good loan officer, aside from being a big producer, he really, really is the most impressive guy I've met so far that's like the well-rounded guy. He really focuses on everything else in his life in order to be balanced so that his mortgage business will be successful, his family life will be successful, his finances will be successful, and just his soul is good. So I want to introduce Mike Hardy. Welcome.
Thank you, Dino. It's awesome to be here. Yeah. Appreciate it.
So, dude, we met now a few years ago, but I think we really got a chance to get to know each other more this year. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna just tell a quick story because I love it, and it's something that I'm now going to do in regards to your son. So we were in Cabo together, and I got a chance to talk to your son by just us two, and I was so impressed with just this young man and what he was saying. Right, so immediately I wasn't just impressed with him; I was impressed with his parents because it really is a reflection, right? And with me having young kids, I was like, boy, when my boys get to be that age, I sure hope they can impress somebody the way his kid just did. So that kind of led, one thing after another. We get back from Cabo, and you had an 18th birthday for him that was probably the best 18th birthday I've ever been to in my life. And why don't you tell everybody the structure of this birthday?
Sure. So this is a rite of passage event. And I do this for my kids when they turn 18, did it for my oldest as well. And the structure is this. It's to invite 20, 25, maybe 30 guys to the house that have had some level of the majority of influence from very significant to just for whatever reason they came to mind for Luke. My son's name is Luke, of impact in his life. And this rite of passage is set up where we have these 25 guys. The assignment is to bring a book that's had meaningful impact on your life, to prepare a life lesson that could be from a success or from a failure, and then also to share what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self. And so Luke and 5 of his buddies got to, we put them in the hot seats up there at the top of the pool, and all the guys were around the pool in the fire pits, and we started with my dad, and my dad gave his book and insight and lesson, and then we worked through the years. Started with the youngest guy and went up to the oldest guy who was in his 70s, happened to be our neighbor, and then a mentor of mine of ours, Todd Duncan, closed it out. So the thought process here is a couple things are important to me. One, I can certainly have significant impact on my kids' lives, but there's a collective wisdom with 25 men that can share so much more. And I wanted him to do a couple things. Number one, start his library. So now he's got 25 books that he can start his library with. Number two, we recorded the event. So if he's ever in, potentially a dark place, what do? You go back to the things that had meaning in your life. So now there's 25 different lessons from men, all of which I respect, have done something fantastic. Majority have had influence in Luke's life, but I don't think that there's a healthy or a traditional rite of passage for a lot of the young men in this country. And so that was not my idea originally, but it's something that I heard from another mentor, Mike Hartwick, did this for his son and kind of adapted it and put some more things, my own flavor to it. But I have a deep passion for, I've been well mentored, and I want to make sure that my kids get the best of what I have, but also the things that I can't bring to the table. So that's the heartbeat behind it, is to just help launch him into the next chapter of his life.
Yeah. So guys, I got to tell you, it was so influential for me at the age of 53 at the time, 54 today. I had never been through anything like that before. And now I'm going to do that for my 2 sons. I would highly recommend that you look into this if you have boys, because, and not only to surprise, you don't surprise them with it. You talk about it throughout the years so they know it's coming, and they know that it's going to be a rite of passage, and they come to expect that this is when I become a man, when I get through all this. So now that we're done with that, I just wanted everybody to know how awesome of an event that was. I wanted Mike to know how much I appreciate it, and just to share it, because I think it could be super impactful on anybody who's got boys and women as well, right? For them. But let's move on. I want everybody to find out who Mike Hardy is. Who are you, both personally and professionally? What's your ethos?
Sure. I am a husband of 27 years, a father of 4. My boys are 20. My oldest boy's 23. My daughter is 20. My 2 younger boys are 18 and 16. I am an entrepreneur to the core. I'm a outdoor enthusiast, an Ironman, did an Ironman a number of years ago. So I'm somebody that believes that we have one life to live, and we should, I think, be healthy in all areas of life. And so I'm extremely intentional with everything in life. It wasn't always that way, but certainly now has been for a number of years. And my heartbeat and what I love to do is I love to help people see what they can't see on their own and break free of just so many unhealthy mindsets and habits that we can all get caught up in. There's a saying I heard years ago that kind of rocked my world, and it is, most people die at 25, but they're not buried until age 80. Mm-hmm. And I think that so many younger folks have all these hopes and dreams, and then you kind of get into life and realize it's hard. And they just give up and they just exist. And so there's something about the concept of being fully alive that's deeply important to me. So I don't know if that answers the question. I feel like I've been told I'm very complex, so I don't even know if I could answer it succinctly, but there's just a deep passion to live a life of excellence, have deep and meaningful impact on everybody that I meet, both personally and professionally. And so that's a little bit about me.
Oh, that definitely answered it. So being the kind of guy that the complex guy that you are, and being that you're an Ironman, which I just have to respect, because that's hard stuff right there. What is your daily routine? How do you get started? And I ask everybody this question because I want to hear what the common denominator is. And really the common denominator is that everybody that's successful has a routine.
Yes.
Right? What do you do?
Sure. It's very detailed. I'll give a simple version of it, though, that I needed to follow, and it is called the Core 4, in a sense. So my daily routine is the Core 4, and the Core 4 is 4 different foundational areas of life: body, being, balance, and business. And I'll unpack each of those just a little bit. So on the body or the physical side, part of my daily routine is at minimum to do 15 minutes of exercise every single morning. Okay. Right now I'm doing the 75 hard program, so it's obviously a lot more than that. But I've noticed over the years that it's the drift or the inconsistency that is really the true like stealer of dreams of people, is inconsistency. And so my rules are, and the way I think about it is 1% of the day is 15 minutes, 14 minutes and 27 seconds. So 15 minutes is 1% of the day. And my thought process is, for the 4 corners of my foundation, how can I not take 1% of my day to be able to invest in myself and my loved ones? And so the body side is every single day, 15 minutes minimum of exercise where I just sweat. Okay.
And what do you usually average?
Yeah. I mean, it's usually 45, and right now with the 75, it's 2 45 workouts, one outside and one, another one, but usually it's 45 minutes. Yeah. But even if I'm busy, it's like I can do 15 minutes. So this is the way I think of it. We have one body to get us roughly 100 years in life. Yeah. Why not? Why do we not take care of it? And it flows through into every area. I mean, if I look at the majority of people that are successful in business, guess what? You've got to be healthy in order to be successful in business, to be your best. So body is first because that's what sparks, there's a physiology change that takes place. So exercise, and then I have a green drink every single morning, except for right now because I'm doing the carnivore diet. So it's a different thing for a 30-day window. But fitness and fuel is how it's termed. Exercise and green drink every morning. That's the body side. Being side, same thing. 15 minutes. What is the being side? This is, for me, a little bit of prayer time, and then also sitting in silence. And so I, every single morning, go through and follow the box breathing that I think it was David Goggins that, I don't remember where I originally heard it, but where it's what the Navy SEALs do in order to reduce stress and calm their mind. And so the box breathing is to inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and hold that for 4 seconds. And so I'll go through and I'll do that box breathing, which is really like a form of meditation. And I'll do that for 10 minutes. And it is unbelievably helpful to me in business to just sit in silence because the best ideas come when I take the time to be quiet. Now, that said, I want to tie that back to the prayer time because growing up, I was always taught, and I've been a Christian for a long time, but I have not always really understood how to have the best relationship with God. And it's an ongoing process, obviously. But growing up, I was always taught you're supposed to pray, but I was never taught that you're supposed to listen either. And how do you listen? And so for me, talking to God and having prayer time is very different from sitting in silence and being in a place where I can hear back. So no different than if we're going to have a relationship and I just talk and then I walk away. That's not a relationship. And so for me, it's kind of a combination of both of those. So prayer time, meditation time, and then revelation time.
So real quick, I'm going to stop you. Sitting in silence is extremely difficult. And I think sometimes there's also a misconception that sitting in silence just simply means no talking. But the struggle I've always had with sitting in silence, it's, even though verbally there's nothing coming out, my mind is still doing this, right? So how much of that do you allow? Because it's easy to drift and start thinking about something, anything, right? Have you been able to master that, or do you have an allowance for I can only think about certain things, or I can't think about anything, I just have to be focused on nothing? What's your deal?
It's a really good question, and there's no right answer to that. And no, I have not mastered it. But what I have done, and my mind just never turns off, and so it's kind of a blessing and a curse. But what I've noticed, and the reason that I journal while I'm doing this, and I think some people have figured out how to completely turn the mind off. I have not. So what I'll do is if something comes to mind, I'll just make a bullet point and jot it down in my journal, and I'm mentally able to let go because I know that it's in a safe place. And so I'm going to say, I don't know if it's half the time, some percentage of the time I can get to a place of peace, and other times I'm just writing a to-do list. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I'll have these amazing insights that never would have surfaced. And again, I don't want to lose it. Kind of like if you're in the shower, you have that great insight and it's just, it's like, what was I thinking about? So that's when the ideas start to flow. And I remember, so my initial thought process was that I thought for years meditation was kind of a crutch for people that couldn't really deal with reality to check out from reality. That's what I thought it was, It's so I totally discounted it. Come to find out the science behind it, it completely changes and improves your capacity to be able to deal with and manage stress. And so just that alone has been one of the things that I would attribute a lot of business success to over the last roughly decade has been being in a place where I can be quiet, be still. And I don't know if this is a revelation. I don't know sometimes if it comes from, I don't know. But all I know is that I hear and I see things that I never would have otherwise. simply by sitting in silence for 10 minutes.
Coupling that with prayer.
Mm-hmm.
I saw something one time on Mother Teresa, and it took me down a rabbit hole. I ended up doing a deep dive on her because the more I looked into her, the more impressed I was.
Yeah.
And that she was a powerful woman. She spoke in front of some of the biggest people in the entire world, right? Presidents.
Yeah.
And she was bold with her speeches. And she was yet a very quiet woman, right? Obviously little woman. So you just wouldn't expect all that. So I really ended up doing this deep dive on her, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I learned a lot about her. One thing she said that really stuck to me that reminds me right now of everything you're saying. She said, if you talk in prayer more than you listen, you're not doing a good job. and I thought through that, and I was like, she's right. All we do is say, can I have this? Can I have this? Can you make this better for me? And you never actually sit and just listen.
Yeah.
Right. And then I know there's a lot of people that still struggle with their faith and where they're at. And it's like, well, he's not going to talk to me. And it's like, maybe he won't verbally tell you, you won't be able to hear it.
Yeah.
But I think what you said, like that, sometimes just the revelation just comes, right? You just think it.
Yeah.
And I personally believe it's something similar to that.
Yeah.
Or something in your day just kind of happens that reveals itself. And I truly feel that being silent, sometimes they just shut the hell up.
Right.
So you can let somebody else talk, right? And if you're praying to somebody, it's just like a student going to a teacher and not letting the teacher teach.
Right.
You're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
So anyways, go on to the next one now.
Yeah. So body being balance is the next one, and that is the relationships in your life. And so the same thought applies, but one of the daily disciplines is to do something thoughtful for my wife and something thoughtful for my kids each day. Could be super small, but it's a daily discipline. And it's, I think it's one of those things where, no different than sort of the concept of investing, daily deposits each day. You end up, building a much healthier relationship over time. So, and it sometimes it'll just be a little note that I'll leave on the counter. What comes to mind now is when I go hiking in the morning, I'll send a video to my daughter, like a little message. She's up at the University of Oregon in Eugene. And so I'll just send her a quick message from Dad. I believe in you. I hope you do great. I'm always here for you. I'm proud of you. And it's different, but part of it is just kind of whatever comes to mind, whatever I feel. And so there's no like rule to it, but there's a frame to it. And those are the things that I think can help like protect and build relationships over time. And so the balance side is I want to do something that is investing in myself every day. So it's like, okay, how can I take care of me? If I'm not healthy, I can't take care of anybody else. Yeah. How can I do something thoughtful for my wife and my kids? So again, it's not huge, but it's little. And so that's the balance side. That's the daily discipline.
Yeah. That's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Then the next one is business.
And by the way, do you go to the bathroom before all this, or you have to hold all that before you do everything good?
Oh yeah. No, this is yeah, this is well, it's what's the saying from, it's like Aristotle saying, it's like first you create your habits and then your habits create you. And so the whole thought process behind this is to build the habits that move from conscious to subconscious over time. I don't even think about this anymore. It's just so routine. And there's a lot more to it, but this is where it started.
Yeah.
And the body being balanced business. It started from a group that I went to a program called Warrior Week a number of years ago. And this is kind of where I learned the frame for this. That was based off of like, kind of the Navy SEALs, buds, their Hell Week. And so sort of a mini version of that with all these life lessons ingrained. Yeah. So pretty cool.
What was the last one?
Last one is business. So the business is to discover and declare. So what is discover and declare? Discover is to take the time each morning to learn something new so I can master my craft. And you think about it, it seems so simple, but it's just how often do we just get busy with all of the stuff we have to do and not take the time to continue to stay on the cutting edge and to learn. And so usually it's longer than that, but at minimum it's 15 minutes. And so, it's like I do Housing Wire, Barry Habib, of course, Darren Daly's part of the routine. And then the next part is declare. And so every single day I have to take something that I learned and I have to teach it in the marketplace.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. Why teach it? It anchors the lesson in my own life. And so over time, you end up becoming a thought leader because of the consistency of teaching. Now, I'm kind of like borderline introvert extrovert, so it's not easy for me, but if I have to do it every day, it becomes easy over time. And so Body Being Balanced Business, the business is discover and declare, take, 1% minimum of your day and study, learn something new, and then teach it to someone else. And so on the weekend, I teach my kids because I don't work, it's like, that's my family time. Yeah. So clients and business during the week. And then we do, I do like investment flip projects. And so sometimes I'll walk my boys through, calculating rate of return on a project. Like that would be my declare. Yeah. So I get super creative with it. I give myself a lot of latitude, but there's a frame for the discipline of discover and declare every day.
Just out of curiosity, the kids are, dad's coming. we gotta buckle down for 15 minutes or however long, right? I mean, I would imagine it's something that the kids have come to expect now.
No, not necessarily. It's more organic.
Okay.
So in my mind, it's like I'm going to find a creative way, not like line up kids. Okay. It's discover declare time. No, wait, we're not doing that.
How about in business?
Yeah.
How do you teach it? How do you declare?
So
could it be just a one-on-one with somebody, or is it purposeful, like I'm going to...
I was, I think, a little bit too rigid with it. Now I just make sure that every single day I've taken the time to intentionally teach. Yeah. And the majority of times it's going to be public setting. So I've kind of in life and business, over time, we have the ability to create the environment around us in a way that suits our highest and best. Mm-hmm. And so part of it is, internally with my team, I'm teaching, multiple times a week, and I have a networking group where I'm presenting. And then we've got the state of the housing events that we do. So it's like, I just worked backwards to say, how can I make sure that part of my daily schedule, there's always going to be a declare portion of it. And so again, not a perfect science, but in my mind, like this is a declare. Like I had my networking group earlier, so I already got my declare points, so to speak. But if I'm getting to share in a way that's going to be beneficial, then in my mind, that's part of my routine.
Yeah. I gotta say, man, I have a love-hate relationship with you.
Oh yeah. Why's that?
I mean, I love listening to you because I learn a lot, and I absolutely hate it because it makes me feel like I don't do enough. So, all right. Hey, listen. So, I want to go back to day one.
Okay.
Like how and why you even got started in the mortgage business, and then I want to hit all your major milestones back to today again.
Okay.
Right. And so we know who you are. And I think that was super important, and I loved hearing all that. It actually just honestly made me feel like I need to be a little better. And if I could just give you that compliment, it worked. Like your declaring worked, because I will now more purposely, because it has to become habit, right?
Yes.
Say 1% for those 4 things, no matter what.
Right.
And now I want to go back, right? How did you become the guy you are today?
Yeah. So I'll give the short version of the backstory. I was a pre-med undergraduate. I hated it. But I finished the degree and I picked up a business minor along the way, and I just always loved the world of business. And so I ended up getting securities licensed and worked as a financial advisor for my early years of my career. UCLA has a undergraduate was at Azusa Pacific University. Then I found UCLA has like a financial planner track program through their extension. And so I went through that program and just loved it. Absolutely loved it. And so had a great mentor, kind of a private wealth management firm. So I got to be exposed at an early age to a lot of best practices of how the wealthy operate. And super cool. But I felt a little bit disingenuous because I was a young guy and I didn't have any money. And I was giving advice to people on money, right? Yeah. So I could go back now. I think I would love it, but it just felt a little bit weird because I knew things in theory, but I didn't have the wisdom of it in a sense.
Practical.
Didn't have practical wisdom. So long story short, I have a good buddy of mine that was in the mortgage business at the time. And we would, we were young guys, go to lunch and talk about, how we what marketing should we do and some joint things and how do we bring in more business and just all the stuff.
What year was that?
This was 2001. Yep. And all of a sudden I started thinking, I kind of like what you do more than what I do. And I'll tell you, there was one pivotal moment where there was a client, he had a scenario and the client had multiple properties and they wanted to refinance a property and he was going to take some cash out. And I just got curious about what are you allowed to do in lending? How does this work? Come to find out it was the Wild West at the time. I'll get into that in a minute. But so I remember, can you get mortgage statements? I ended up I built out a spreadsheet and I came to find that this client was like super inefficient with how their debt was structured with what was available. And so this person can pick up the equivalent of, I don't know what it was, $12,000, $15,000 a year of risk-free return by restructuring debt. Mm-hmm. So wow, that's a big deal. And so anyway, that was the start of, I wonder if there's the opportunity in this business to just be in debt management. And it took a while to figure out. I did both for about a year, but on the security side, there's a concept called selling away, where if you're with a broker dealer, then it's super important. Any outside business activity, they need to have an understanding of what you're doing with outside business activity. And so I started originating, and it's not technically it's acceptable, but it's just they got uncomfortable with it. So I had to decide if I was going to I was a Series 7 license. I'm going to keep my 7 or if I'm going to go in the mortgage route. So you can shelve your Series 7 for 2 years, at least you could at the time. I don't know if that's still the case. And so I ended up just kind of taking off those years because there's very few people that were in the mortgage business that actually helped people truly manage debt. And so that's kind of the backstory, how it started.
Yeah, it's funny. You said it was the Wild West back then, and it was. And there's good and bad. For bad people, the Wild West was bad.
Yep.
But for good people, right, we had a lot of different avenues to help people and restructure debt, and restructure a way that, could be generational wealth for people, which I'm bummed about that we don't have some of those anymore. Unfortunately, though, I can see how they can be taken advantage of by the wrong people.
Yeah, and even sometimes there's opportunities missed that could have a significant bottom line for an individual by a well-meaning loan officer that doesn't understand the option. So I think there's a character side, there's also a competency and a caring side. All three of those things are important. For sure.
So 2001. I think the recession was just about over, right? Because didn't it kind of start? The 125s were in motion just before that. Those all died, and then things got kind of tough for a while, and then all of a sudden it started doing better. I think that's probably around the time you came in.
Yeah, it was. I was running strong in the mortgage business in 2002, and I was kind of got my feet in 2001.
And were you originally a broker or a banker?
No, so I can't believe that this worked out this way, but I ended up setting up a net branch for a small mortgage bank right out of the gate. Right, and I had no idea what I was doing. I kid you not. I saw an ad and, I don't know if it was a Scotsman Guide or some similar publication, and reached out to them and knew enough of the language, and they gave me a net branch, which was,
Wild West.
It was Wild West. I was shocked, and so the resume was respectable. So, but they were just, I look back now and it's like, okay, I can kind of see why they did it. But
And how old were you?
I was, let's see, so I was like 30 years old.
Did you own a house yet?
I did. Yeah.
And you were obviously married, I think, right?
You're right. I got married at 25 and I bought a house. We closed, I think, the same time, the month after we got married. So yeah, I had enough. I could talk the talk, but I really didn't know what I was doing. And so my assistant with my financial planning firm, I said, Jennifer, guess what we're doing? You're going to learn how to process because I've figured out how to originate, and that it came pretty easy. So I don't know. I think a lot of things in life are like this. It's like, how hard can it be? We're going to figure it out. Like there's a saying I have on my office at home, under my monitor. It says, everything is figure outable. My attorney had that. She gave me a copy of it. Everything is figure outable. And I believe that. And so I said, I'll figure it out. And we did.
And then, so guide me now. You said in 2000, well, the very following year, you hitting the ground running, you're doing well. How did you start? I mean, that unless you're doing a lead gen shop, right? Yeah. Where somebody's providing, if you're on your own,
right.
That is the first big milestone. How to get that first deal.
Right. So my niche was with working with financial advisors. Okay. I spoke the language. I knew the pain points, and I understood how I could complement their business. Yeah. And so that's what I did. I just approached all the advisors that I knew and said, listen, there's a better way in lending. There's a lot of things that you have to be careful of with your clients. And if you're truly going to serve your clients, you have to find somebody that's trustworthy and competent and can help with debt management. Yeah. I'm your guy. So that's how I started. And it just got, we just got a tremendous amount of referrals. And I did other things, other leads came in. But my thought process with what is my model that's going to help get me off the ground was working with advisors. Okay. Yeah. And I didn't work with realtors for years, for many years. Actually a handful of years. And there's another good story in there related to real estate, but that's how it started. And I think the financial advisor market is so underserved.
Every time I hear these, it reminds me of me and what I did. I got to tell a quick story about how I got my first deal, my first two deals. The first one was I was so desperate. I just opened up the white pages. Remember the old phone books?
Yep.
And I didn't know you could call your title rep and they could refine the search a little bit, right? So I just started calling. Didn't know if it was a renter, an owner, whoever. And I ordered pizza one night and I sat there with one of the other guys and just started making calls. And finally I got this engineer in Huntington Beach on the phone that had 2 properties. And I got a chance to refi both properties. Yeah. I nailed it. I was like, why don't I do this every day?
Right.
And I tell you though, cold calling is not the easiest thing in the world. I hated it with a passion. I couldn't keep doing it. It just wasn't my personality. So I had to get into the relationship business. That's really what I'm all about, right? I'm just built for it. And I knew plenty of realtors, but none of them would give me any business because their commission was on the line with the brand new loan officer, right? Why would I trust you? You're brand new.
Right.
Can't afford to lose my commission because you screwed up.
Yeah.
So it was 6 months into my license, and it was around Christmas time. Actually, it was 4 months. 4 months. It was Christmas time. The broker I was working for had a boat.
Yeah.
And I said, can I use your boat for the Newport Beach Boat Parade? And he's like, I'm driving. That's what he said.
Okay.
I don't know how to drive a boat at the time. Right? I was like, so he drove. I invited some realtors. I told the realtors, can you bring another realtor as well? And then, I called my title guy and my escrow guy and said, can you bring food? Can you bring booze? Right? Everything was taken care of because I didn't even have any money. And then I made the Christmas music tape. That was my contribution. So we went through the whole boat parade, which is an incredible time, right? The Newport Beach Boat Parade is awesome. And at the very end, as we're coming back to the harbor, after talking with them all and really having fun and getting to know them, turned down the music and I said, listen, I want to thank each and every one of you guys. It's my first year in business, and I wouldn't have been able to do everything I did without you guys. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. None of them had given me any business.
Yeah.
And each one that was there didn't give me any business, thought the others were. So they all of a sudden had faith in me that I could close deals. And the very next day I got my first deal.
Some amazing crowd psychology right there. That's brilliant.
So wow. That was my first, the way I got my deal.
Got it.
Anyway, back to you. So take me now to your next milestone, right? I mean, you brought an assistant, which again is also unbelievable because most people have to work up to a place where they can even afford or have an assistant.
Yeah.
You went to financial planners. How long did it take before you had enough business where you were staying busy?
It was really right away. Part of it is I had a book of business from being a financial advisor that I could also jumpstart with. So it was existing book of business, which wasn't huge. It was additional financial advisors. And then the buddy of mine that I was just referencing in the mortgage business, he was with World Savings at the time. There's a lot of business they couldn't do. So it gave me the sort of the concept early in of having other bankers that could be referral partners, which I still use to this day. I mean, I've got, there's certain things that we don't do well that I'll refer, and I've got great people for them and vice versa. Yeah. So that was just the strategy is how can I align with partners that do something really well and I do something really well, and we just kind of look out for each other. So that's how it started. And it wasn't, again, it was kind of right in front of, it was a, what I didn't understand at the time, maybe I understood intellectually, but not from a place of wisdom, was how severe economic cycles are and how fast that can change the game. Yeah. And so got a lot of business right out of the gate, enough to say, this is what I'm going to do in the future. So that said, again, the concept of my thought process was, well, how do I start to get business from the real estate world? So I had a buddy of mine that was a trainer for Century 21, and I approached him and said, why don't we start an office? How hard can it be?
A real estate office?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's looking back, it's silly.
2 feet in, huh?
But it was, I knew that I knew how to set up the structure of a business, and setting up and leading a business is very different from running an office. They're different skill sets.
Did you have any other loan officers working for you yet?
No.
So just you and your one assistant?
Yeah.
Who was also processing?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And how many years or how long before you decided to open up a real estate office?
2 years. Everything's figure outable, right? So let's do it. So we ended up opening an escrow company, and then and there's a bigger lesson coming here. I know you see it coming. Then I called the owner of the firm, the financial planning firm. It's like, there's all these private money opportunities, bridge loans, and nobody's in this space. Let's put together a fund. How hard can it be? So here's the thing, when the wind is at your back, yeah, there's a sense of false confidence that comes.
We call it fool's gold.
Fool's gold. And so, long story short, that for a while had the mortgage business running, the real estate office, escrow company, and the fund. And
did you open a notary company?
No, I didn't, okay. didn't. But we were doing nothing well.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing well. And I realized that at some point, I think all of us in life, we start to figure out where our skill sets are, what we love and what we're excellent at. And there's a big difference between starting a company and then running the day-to-day of a company. Very different skill sets. So, long story short, my business partner at the time, some family health issues came up, and he was kind of running all the day-to-day. He had to leave. And so now I'm in the day-to-day, and realized very quickly it wasn't a place I wanted to be. Mortgage company was making money. The real estate company was really kind of losing money. It was the escrow company was doing respectable, and the fund was doing well. But it was, the life was being sucked out of me. I was spread way too thin. And so ended up,
how was your marriage during that time?
Horrible. Okay. Yeah, not good. I was just, again, that's like all of the things, all the daily disciplines that seem like, man, this guy's got it all together. It's because I had a decade of not having it together. Yeah. So these are, painful lessons that were learned over the years.
And I hope all you guys listening can just for a moment, no matter how difficult your life is right now, no matter how dark it might be, here's a perfect example of you can get out of everything is
Figure outable.
Right? I mean, seriously, everything is. And no matter how difficult it is, you don't have to rewind it. You can just fast forward it. You can get past it. Just push past it. There's so many ways to do it. And that's what my hope is with this podcast, is that you're going to hear all these successful guys and their stories of how they got here, right? So that's why I started with who he is now, but then let's rewind so we can learn from all of those mistakes. Because, I mean, opening up a bunch of companies that you really didn't know anything about wasn't such a great idea looking back, right?
Right. So this is all just prior to the Great Recession. Sold the real estate franchise, wound down the escrow company.
Timing.
Yeah. And the world was getting weird and I could feel it and nothing made sense. I mean, I read The Big Short a couple times now and watched the movie, and it just felt really weird and I couldn't put my finger on it, but started to I remember, it's funny, I was sitting in the parking lot at Legends and thinking, like, if I could just start over in a really bad place, knowing that, okay, I've got all these things going, my skill set is not suited toward running it. It's just, everything's kind of a mess. And I just need to, if I could start fresh, what would I do and why? And my thought process was, you know what I'd do? I would be the best of the best in the mortgage business, and I would have a niche working with financial advisors. That's what I do. I know the language. I know how to add value to their life. I know how to help their clients. And
you can do it with your eyes closed.
I can do it. And so started going down that path and ended up getting about 75% of the way through kind of cleaning things up when, Great Recession rolled in. So instead of sort of like a head-on collision, it was more like sideswiped and hit a pole. So it really took about a year and a half to kind of like truly clean up the mess instead of a decade or 7 years, whatever. So it ended up moving into only lending, and had a really unique strategy and approach, which we can talk about if you'd like at the time. But that's kind of a lot of life lessons in that window, is getting way over my skis from my, at the time, leadership ability and competencies, with being spread too thin and being in too many different areas at once.
During that period of time, I know now you're all about educating yourself, making sure you learn, right? And diving deep into how to do things, right? And how to be better at things. At that time, was that your personality at all?
No, not really. I've always been very driven and always had a commitment to just sort of trying to find a way to win and not, I kind of have a detest for mediocrity. But I had very little structure. I was also, this is something I've learned over the years. This is, like kind of a Darren Hardyism, but, I was kind of had like a weekend warrior mentality. It's like, I don't care what I have to do. I'll find a way and I'll fight my way through, but with very little consistency and discipline, like throughout the days. And so, almost like my past, the old version of me would be, all right, I'm going to go on this, I'm going to ride my bike to the beach, even though I haven't ridden my bike for a month. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's foolish. You're going to get hurt, right? Or I'm going to hike into the mountains. And so I would do these extreme things, but without training or prep or anything. Okay. I was just, I don't know what it is, the wiring. So it's like, you can't eat 7 apples on Sunday and have the same effect as an apple a day. So it's that type of thinking. Yeah. So that was the old version. And I don't know if that answers the question, but yes. I did not have daily disciplines, and I did not have healthy structure in my life at all for many years. Yeah.
So would you say that was probably the hardest point in your career?
It kind of extended for a number of years because the Great Recession hit. So now I've got, a couple employees, and And I ended up through the Great Recession really going without a paycheck for about a year and a half, but had some good years before. And the one thing that I think is, a lifelong lesson is I saved for a rainy day. And so I had some reasonable reserves, not significant, but some reasonable reserves that allowed me to keep the doors open and get through. It got close though. I remember sitting in a coffee shop just sitting there with my journal thinking, if something doesn't change, I gave myself like a timeline. I've got 3 months. If it doesn't change in 3 months, that was like should have been 2 months, but like 3 months, I need to go do something else. I won't be able to make it. I'll have to figure something else out. Yeah. So there's burning cash. And it was within about 30 days of that, the Fed cut federal funds and discount rate 50 basis points. And it's just like business turned on overnight, but it got dicey. It got dicey for a while.
And it feels very similar place right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels. But my lesson was I had what we call a never again moment. It's like when you go through that, it's like I will never put myself in a position again where I've got that level of uncertainty and scarcity in my life. And so I'll do everything in my power to make healthy decisions that I'll be able to be safe financially. So, this seems odd. So I'll figure out the best way to describe this. But in this market, even though business has been a grind, and it's been, the P&L over the last couple of years has not been pretty. We call it, a mentor of mine, Jim McQuaig, he says we've been looking for the P. Like we got an L in there, but where's the P in the P&L? But on a personal front, I'm ready. I was ready for it. If there's any advice I could give to somebody getting in, it's like, get to a place where my dad taught me this as a kid. He said, if you're a kid and you've got $10,000 in the bank, and as a kid, that's a lot of money, you're going to make really good decisions. Okay. So add as many zeros as you need to add to that number. So if you've got X amount of reserves in the bank, the storms can come in and they can go, but you're ready. And so I had a never again moment. So when this one came in, I was ready. Okay. Not fun. No, not fun. But there's unbelievable opportunities for market share, like once a generation opportunities for new market share in this market that we're in right now. 2/3 of the business out. Yeah. Mortgage companies, 70% of them consolidating. We talked about this in our elite group, but the first 2 years were removing the loan officers that brought no value to the business. Next year's were the cleansing of, executive teams that didn't bring value. And the next 2 years are going to be the consolidation of companies. And it'll be a rearranging of, kind of landscape reshaping on a corporate level. It's part of the cycle.
Yeah. I also think technology is changing in such a big way. And a lot of the companies, even big ones, that are in such a bad financial situation right now, aren't going to make the move just yet because they're not willing to invest in something like that right now. And I think by the time they're able to, it'll probably be too late.
Yeah.
And I think personally, the way loans are being done will be completely different in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And I feel there's going to be a real big push of either you're going to be super small or you're going to get squeezed out. The middle is going to get squeezed, is my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But technology is changing, and you can't slow down because it's speeding up. So, what's next? Here we are now. We worked through all your milestones, right? You learned a lot of lessons by doing the stuff you did. Mm-hmm. This last recession, or it wasn't really a recession, I guess, but our high interest rate environment that crushed so many of the loan officers and mortgage companies alike. I know just by knowing you personally, you said business was a grind, but there was a lot of margin in other places. I know you pivoted a little bit, right? And you were able to go do some flips and various things.
Yeah, I've been investing in real estate on a couple of different levels for a long time. And like kind of the way I think is, yes. So short answer is I've got, 4 or 5 flip projects going at any given time, and developed some capital over the years. And, I just sort of thinking through like rule of 72, if there's a $1 million of capital, over a 10-year window, if you get a 7.2% rate of return, money doubles. If you get 11.6, it triples. If you get a 15% rate of return, it's 4x. 17% rate of return is 5x, and 20% is 6x. Okay. So just, not exact, but pretty close. So the thought process was, how can I make my money best work for me? And there's a very different mindset, skill set, and discipline between making money, keeping money, and then growing money. Yeah. All very different. And my realization a number of years ago was that I was spent so much time in making money, but I didn't really spend as much time on the growing money side. Yeah. And even with having a financial advisor background, it was just, for whatever reason, that always kind of got pushed off to the side. And so I started putting in a weekly discipline of spending about 3 hours a week on growing money, just research, best practices, listening, reading, and knowing that if I did that well, and I could move from, you look at the markets and you pick whatever rate of return is going to be over time, and I could figure out how to add a couple percentage points by being intentional. It's a big difference to have money 4x versus 2x over a 10-year window, 4 million versus 2 million with $1 million. So and these are the things that come to me. We're talking about sitting in silence. Like these are the things that come to me as I'm sitting in silence for 10 minutes I need to spend a little bit of time on that. So I created a discipline. I'm going to spend a couple hours a week on the growing money side. And over the years, it's turned into, it's unbelievably fun and fulfilling, but it's become a strategy I've used actually to partner with what I would call like higher, more sophisticated real estate professionals that understand the investment world, because like we're a different language. This how many people in real estate actually own real estate, let alone invest in it. Okay, so probably 80-20 and 80-20 of 80-20. Probably 4%, maybe have investment properties. I don't know what the numbers are, but there's a common language. And so I like to look for things that have nutritional value where everything can help each other. So the mortgage business can be helped by the investment strategy. And it's not like this is my lesson from before. I don't want to be doing 4 separate things. I want to be doing one thing where I can stay in like my highest and best, and they all complement each other.
So in your daily, right, we got your daily routine in the morning and all that. You have a lot going on. How many hours a week do you work?
It's probably 40 to 50.
And that's all the businesses, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's, now you have to define work, because
do you include, reading and learning about things?
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever said, these are my work hours, but I'll just, as far as the routine goes, I usually get up like this morning, got up at 5:45, did my exercise, had a networking group at 7. And then, I'll probably wrap up about 6 this evening. But that's usually, I'm not out that early. I typically will keep the mornings for myself and don't typically start on anything that is work related until about 9. Okay. And so the mornings are mine. And, but it goes to the argument of like, what is the work side? When I say there's a concept that I really like, which is freedom of time and place and relationship. Like, am I deciding what I'm doing, who I'm doing it with, and when I'm doing? And if I can say yes to that, it's not really work. Okay. Mm-hmm. Even though some of those things will benefit work. Yeah. So now, the work day gets pretty complicated, kind of like 9 to 5. So I usually bookend that with time that's for me. So at the end of each day, I'll go to the coffee shop and I'll usually just sort of sit there and debrief and journal and read and, put on my Bose headphones with the blackout and put on the Calm app or listen to some music and just sort of like let the day come down. And so that's the method. But I don't have like even though there's a lot of obligations right now, if I have to say the grind part of it might be 35 to 40 hours. The total work time is probably, closer to 45.
And how structured is your day? So I'll give you an example, like Todd Bookspan, right? Win by Noon. And this whole thing is like block it out, super high structure, get all those big things done by noon. After that, really you could go on if you wanted to. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a little bit of a free spirit, so I do certainly have structure, but the way that I actually set up my week instead of my day. And there's an exercise I go through called the General's Tent. Okay. The General's Tent is, the concept comes from like the book, The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And there's a saying in there, which is the battle is won in the general's tent long before the battle is joined. And so every week on Sunday, typically I'll take 45 minutes and I'll follow this flow and answer a series of questions that allow me to kind of unearth what are the big rocks that I need to get handled the next week. And so then I get those on the calendar. So it's not by noon. I've noticed my highest creativity point is usually after an afternoon lull. So my creative cylinders are firing and my energy is higher typically in like the late afternoon. I don't know why, it's just how it is. And so I will usually be able to move things forward, but the big rocks, I call them, I'm looking every week when I go through the General's Tent exercise to have a couple of things in the business, on the personal, and on the investment that are big rocks that I move forward. So those go on the calendar and everything else fits around it. So that's my flow.
And then on Sunday night, you take some time and you kind of plan everything out, and you have certain questions that you ask yourself. What does that look like?
Sure. So the General's Tent exercise, it's a series of questions I'll go through that will sort of unearth what's happening on the inside and then clarify the things that are happening on the outside. So I'll just I'll give you a little bit of context to it. So in fact, I have a list of, let's see here. Okay, so I'll walk through this. The saying is the battle is won in the general's tent long before the battle is joined. Strategy without tactics is the slow course to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. And so what it does is it helps me revisit and challenge and anchor my beliefs. It helps me always be looking at my values, which are internal. It helps me then like form or maybe micro course corrections on any principles. And then I can get into my strategy for business and then to tactics. I think so often we just tactics without all of the bottom. So here's some of the questions. What did I learn about myself this week? Every time it's something different. Okay. What else did I learn? Sometimes there's number 2. Where's an area that I can improve? Next, what am I grateful for? Next, is there anything I'm angry about that I need to work through? Next, who do I need to forgive? Yep. And the saying that I have next to it is we can only improve our life to the degree that we free ourselves of negative emotions. Because we can't hold a positive and a negative emotion simultaneously. Next, who do I need to ask for forgiveness from? Who do I need to help? What should I automate, delegate, or eliminate from my life? Okay, and I'll look for something because if I'm gonna elevate, there's things that I need to let go of. Automate, delegate, or eliminate. Who, not how. And then I'll revisit my core 4 I was telling you about. Did I win each day? So what was my score? Did I miss any? Because I'll go through and look at my history. My key 4, did I win my week? The big rocks, which were, my my couple of working on the business, working on my personal life, and then working on my investments. It's a yes or no.
Yeah.
And then what are the course corrections I need to make in each of these areas, body, being, balance, and business. And then I'll revisit. So what does my next vision for the next week look like? Get a picture of it in my mind. Like let's say there's a big meeting. I just want to get a picture of like the outcome. What's my vision for the year? And then what am I grateful for?
And you do this every week?
Every Sunday. Yeah.
Do you journal it or do you just think it?
No. I write it out. I have an ongoing Word document where I've got the template for this, and then I'll just cut and paste it and fill it out. And so then each week there's a new one. I'll cut and paste the template. And so I've got, a couple years now of each of these. And it's not, again, it's a structure. So sometimes it's like, I just rush through it. But at minimum, it's way better for me than not doing it because I walk into my week with purpose and clarity.
Can you send that to me?
Happy to.
And then we're gonna put it on the website, you guys, so you can have it as well. But I also want to know the General's tent. Mm-hmm. Is that a thing? Like if you were to Google it, it's got like a whole.
I actually don't know. This is about half of this comes from the Warrior Week program that I went to, and then about half of it is my own just flavor and personality to it. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then related to that, I'll just read this because this is what I read at the end of the General's tent is affirmation without discipline is delusion. Vision without action is a daydream. Action without vision is a nightmare. Without gratitude, we lose vision. Without appreciation, we lose aspiration. And so every week I want to make sure that I've got like a good, healthy perspective on things, but I'm ending it with gratitude.
So we're getting to the end of this, and this is one of my absolute favorite questions. If you allowed me to, and I took you and dropped you off in some random city that you didn't know anybody, and you were going to get in the mortgage business, what would you do? How would you get started? Because there's a lot of people listening right now. They're like, how do I get going, man? Like, how do I get going?
Sure. I would look for the best producer I could possibly find, and I would get under that guy's wing and learn how he does it. I'm a believer in fast tracking success through healthy mentoring. And so, I guess the question is, if you're going out as a loan officer, or if you want to learn the business, those are separate things, right? So the fast track, I think, to the greatest success, I'm kind of a recovering do-it-yourselfer. Okay. I want to automate, delegate, or eliminate as much as possible from my life. And I want to fast track growth through, the saying is success leaves clues. So who's doing something really well and how can I get in their draft and add massive value to their life? And so I think that if I don't know if there's any more rules to this game, but like what I would do right away is I would find who is crushing it, what are they doing, and I would work even almost for free. Like not for free. Again, are we playing a short-term game or a long-term game, right? So it's like, what's the caveats here? But I could have accelerated things by, I could have shaved. I think that somebody that has like a really good platform and guidance and mentoring can do in 3 years what it takes somebody else 7 to 10 years to do.
And I do believe, because I tell people that all the time, I also believe that even though those 3 years might be hard, right? Because you're under somebody, you're not really making it on your own. The next 3 years and beyond will just go that much faster. But let's reverse this now, because I agree with you. That's exactly what I would say. But let's just say, with all your years of wisdom, I drop you off, right? You don't need anybody's mentoring.
Oh, okay.
What would you do?
Yeah.
Right?
So I have my knowledge today,
you have all your
and they just get dropped off?
Yeah.
Oh, financial advisors.
So you would just start cold calling or visiting or what?
Okay, so the concept I really like is lateral referrals. Okay, so I would go to networking groups for sure. I mean, I think that there's I have a saying I like: one new idea or one new relationship can completely change the trajectory of your life. One new idea, one new relationship. So everybody that I'm dropped off. First thing I would do is look for all the different networking groups I can go to. I would also make a list of all the financial advisors that are in the area. And then I could do some pretty quick research on who knows that advisors. How do I get 1 degree away? So I say that because lateral referrals have been a little secret of mine over the years. I ended up getting referred to an amazing realtor through a financial advisor buddy. I said, "Hey, who's your go-to realtor and why? What do you like about him?" "Oh, so-and-so, Barbara, she's amazing. She does the right thing behind the scenes every time when no one's looking. She's fantastic. Would you mind introducing me to her?" "Happy to."
I want to pause real quick because I think that's important too. Oftentimes over the years, it was, "Hey, I just gave your number to one of my clients. He's going to be calling you."
Yeah.
Got recalls, right?
Right.
Or, "Here's a guy's number. I want you to call him, do his loan." It's like, so I finally learned, you know what? Better yet, do a formal introduction. Because if you do a formal introduction, now we're kind of all in the hot seat. He's got to respond, and I sure as heck better respond as well, right? So I think you kind of said the same thing. Make sure you get an introduction from somebody, and I think it's going to go a lot further.
Transfer of trust. Lateral introductions, lateral referrals, transfer of trust. And so I'll go both ways. I will ask a really strong realtor partner. This is a great question. If you had to have a realtor represent you to buy a home and you were not there and they had to represent you and you're out of state and you had to buy something, who would you choose and why? And immediately that person is going to get somebody in mind. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? That's the person I want to know. Why? Because you know that if people will put their own money on the line and trust, they will go to, call them these are the 3 C's, who is high character, who is highly competent, and who will take the time to care about my situation. Character, competence, care. And so now that person says, "I would use so-and-so." Cool. I would love to meet them. Let's go get on a boat together and travel through, let's go get lunch, like whatever it is, right? So, but that's the lateral referral power. Everybody, we're 1 degree away from anybody we need to know to win in every area of life.
So we dropped you off. You're going to hit up networking groups. So I want to give practical advice to people, right? And sometimes it's new people. Other times it's just people that are struggling. And, during times like this, they got to reinvent themselves a little bit. So I've got personal feelings about networking groups. I did a lot of them in the early years, but the majority of the time, it was just a bunch of people that didn't have any business that were trying to go out and get business.
Yeah.
But I do believe there's probably an art to picking the right audience. So what kind of networking groups would you do? Or would you just not care because they can still introduce you to somebody?
Yeah.
But I never thought of them as a person of enough value that their introduction would actually be any better for me anyway.
So the saying is a good businessman needs to do both fishing and farming. Fishing to feed you for today and farming that will feed you for tomorrow. Okay, so we're addressing 2 separate things here.
So you got 4 B's, you got 3 C's, and you got 2 F's.
Yes. So in this, this mock challenge here, I got to make sure I have enough fish for today, and then I got to plant the seeds for tomorrow. So I'm considering both at the same time. So here's a tip for networking. I have this little game I play when I go to a networking group. If it's just a function, and it is, if I could only continue a relationship with one person in this room, who would it be and why? Because so often, like we go to networking, we get 50 cards and we do nothing with them, right? That's a waste of everybody's time. And so then it's, who's the one person that I want to meet? Okay. And then I need to figure out how can I add value to their life? How can I be a net giver in any relationship? So find the one person, figure out how I can add value to their business, and find a way to get to know them. And then So like that's one place I would start. And then again, like, I don't know, I'm a less is more believer. It's like, if I think so many people like look at business from a shotgun approach instead of like a more strategic approach, but 1 degree away. So I want to have enough fish for today. So let's just say you can figure out enough fish for today. Then it's a slow growth. I mean, it can be fast, but of what do I want my business to look like? And so the way our business is set up now, it's about 40% database referrals. It's different because this market's different, but over the last probably decade, it's about 40% database, and then the balance is split between real estate referral and financial professional referral.
Okay.
It's the mix. So I would start finding key people. They don't even have to be in positions of, they can refer to me. And then I want to know from that individual, could be a business owner, could be whatever profession, who's your financial advisor? What do you like about them? What do you love about them? Why are you working with them? And do you have a realtor that you would work? If you were out of state and you had to buy, who would you work with and why? And then find a lateral introduction.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I know those are strategies, but I haven't thought about this question for a long time. So, but I would immediately go to my strengths. I would take the existing knowledge I have, which is related to understanding real estate investing, best practices. I would also start teaching on the best practices of creating a bulletproof morning routine. And I would do that in real estate offices. We're just starting to do that. But since I know that, it applies for your mock scenario. And I would get ingrained with a handful of local financial advisors to be their go-to for debt management.
Is there a book that's changed your life?
The first one that comes to mind is Who Not How by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. And why is that? Well, we're all taught to figure out the how. And we spend so much time sometimes investing in a how where there's a who that could do it 10 times better, 10 times faster. So that's been freeing for me, because anytime I get stuck now, it's like, I don't know where to go here. And the default is in our education system, it's like, figure out the how. No, I don't want to know the how. I want to know a who that's competent, has high character, and cares about the situation. Yeah. So that's become a daily discipline, is to think through who are the who's that can help move things forward.
Yeah. And if you had to write a book, what would the title of your book be?
So I'm writing a book, and it's in the early stages, but it is Wisdom for My Firstborn Son. I think that's the title. I'm not 100% certain on it, but the book is going to be related to the rite of passage that you get to experience. Okay. And what I plan to do is take each guy's lesson and turn it into a chapter, and create a playbook that's also in the book. So anybody that wants to do this same thing, they just follow the checklist. Yeah. They don't have to reinvent anything. So it would be related to, all the things I do I've been well mentored. My father was amazing with just giving me like great sound life advice. It's something I deeply care about doing for my kids. And I noticed that if there's healthy families, every problem that exists across the face of this planet can be solved by the genius that exists on this planet. And in order for that genius to come forward, there's got to be, what is it, the saying? It's the mind starts to work again when somebody feels safe. So I see so much opportunity in sharing the best practices of healthy structure for people so that they can become highest and best, and then also helping the talent, like our younger generation, figure out a path so that they can like uncover that genius.
Yeah. That's great. What about a quote? What's your favorite quote?
This one just came to mind. I'm going to go with it. I have a lot. Just to preface this statement, if I hear something that's an insightful thought, I'll write it down. So I have about 10 years now of just like insights, and I intentionally don't write the author down because I don't want to be biased by the author. So all these insights. So the one that came to mind right now, especially because it's been so complicated in our business, is your mind is your best friend or your worst enemy. Your mind can make a hell of heaven or a heaven of hell. And what is it related to this? These are, I'm tying a couple thoughts together, but I believe that each of us have like a different versions of us in us. And so how do we pull out the level 10 version as opposed to operating at a level 5 to level 8 or wherever it cycles? And hell begins the day the man you are meets the man you could have been. And so how do we close the gap so that level 10 person is, you are as close as you possibly could be to that level 10 ideal version. Yeah. So there's a couple thoughts there, but that's what came to mind as you asked that.
So last, before we wrap it up, I know recently I noticed you've now become officially a coach. I want people to know how to get a hold of you if they need it, if they want coaching, mentorship. I don't know if you're open to it or how that works, but how's somebody get a hold of you or look you up?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'd say I have a website, MikeHardyBio.com is a website, and that's pretty easy to track me down there. I've actually been kind of on a very, 5-6 hours a week. I've been, doing some coaching with Cindy's group, and it's super, super fulfilling for me, super fulfilling. So, yeah, I can drop my number in the in the notes, all that,
the show notes.
But yeah, Mike Hardy Bio is sort of an accumulation. I've got obviously all my mortgage business, and then some of the things on investment projects, and a couple other things that are on there. A couple of I write every now and then, and so there's some short stories of different life lessons are kind of listed on there. An Ironman story. If anyone ever wants to do an Ironman, I've got the sort of the play-by-play of all of the internal demons that you go through and just the whole experience from start to finish.
Difficult mind game to play. Is there anything we missed that you tell anybody, talk about?
If I could say one more thing, I am really grateful for you. You approach life and business in a way that I have a high level of respect for. I think your model, the time you put into figuring out how to live with excellence, personally and professionally, is very admirable. And it's just been an honor to get to know you through Elite. And I hope this is only I know we've only kind of gotten close recently through all this stuff. We've known each other for a while, but I'm a big fan of yours, and thank you for who you are and all you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Guys, listen, this podcast is meant to get people to download all their wisdom, because this is like decades of experience, and those experiences, good and bad, you can learn from. So try not to listen to this and do something else on the side. Mike was talking about it earlier, right? Like every day, take some time to better yourself and focus just on that one thing. Don't multitask. Don't try and do a bunch of different stuff. Focus on how to make yourself better, because if you do that, you're going to end up being way more successful, and you're going to do it a lot faster. You're going to do it at a level 10 instead of a level 5 or 6, and you'll find yourself in a much happier place down the road. So remember, we're here, the Way Podcast. We're here to help you, to equip you, to educate you, and empower you on the way lending should be done. Wish you all the best of luck, and we'll see you next time.